And we're back. Another episode of the Victory Degree Podcast. This time we have Sean Clifford in the house. Sean, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Nick. Appreciate it.
First of all, how are you doing today?
Fantastic. Monday, another week to attack the day. Got my workout in and really, spent another day at the office over here in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Living life. I love it. So for those who might not know who you are currently the backup quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. We had a little laugh before we started recording this because I'm a huge Niners fan. So, there's some animosity there, I guess you could say, but a lot of great battles between the Packers and the Niners recent years, especially in the playoffs. We've obviously owned Green Bay the past, 5 or 6 years in the playoffs. We'll get into that later on. You're a 5th round pick by the Packers. There's actually a picture of you. You're a little kid wearing a Packers jersey. So
Yeah.
Seems like kind of a full circle moment for you going to Green Bay. You're also an entrepreneur. So in addition to kind of your football playing, you started a company, which we'll get into later on as well. And you were also the number 18 recruit in the whole state of Ohio as a member of the 2017 class. So Sean, I figured a good place for us to start is back in your high school days. And if we were to go back in time and, if I were to meet high school Sean, what type of person would I have met back in those days?
Way different. Maybe the morals and the ethics are still there, but I would say a different person. That's for sure. Not the man that I aspired to be just quite yet. But no, I mean, back at St. Xavier, really at the end of the day, was my stomping grounds where I really, developed who I wanted to be. Our mantra at St. X was always meant for others. And, it reigned true for my college career, my professional career, and my business career. Always looking to help whoever it might be, because the more you give, the more you get. That's always at least been my thought. Even when you don't get as much, it's still great to give and give back, especially in lives where we've been blessed with so much. Just the opportunity to always be looking to pay it forward. St. X taught me that every step of the way, but really had a great career there. Got to meet some fantastic people, fantastic teammates, got to win a state championship, which was fun. As my brother, who also went there as well, is calling me on the FaceTime checking in. But no, it was fantastic. Love Cincinnati, love St. X, and really, started me off on my career.
I think there's a story of you. I think you might have been a freshman in high school, and you made the varsity team by trying out as a long snapper. So what is that story?
Yeah, that was. You might have heard that on Adam's show. He was very intrigued by that as well. But yeah, I had an opportunity to play on the JV level as a freshman, which was a little unheard of at St. X, just because 1,600 all guys. There was over 150 players on just the freshman team alone. So it was a large school with a lot of football love. So being able to be on that JV team was a big step in the right direction for me. But I wanted to be on the varsity in some regard. That was a goal of mine, to be on the varsity football team as a freshman in any shape or form. So they were actually holding tryouts. Wasn't supposed to be in them at all. But the head coach, Steve Speck, came down and he said, "Who do you have for your long snapper?" And this is midsummer training camp with a JV football team. No one has even thought about special teams pretty much. We're just trying to figure out who's gonna snap and catch and simple things. But I overheard the conversation and I ended up going to my head coach at the time and said, I'd love to be able to try out. I could throw overhand, so how much harder is it throwing underhand? And he was pretty pissed because he didn't want to be anywhere near that. He figured that if I got injured, it would be detrimental to our team. And my dumbass self next day walked into the varsity practice, got there before everybody else, threw my pads on, and I just started snapping. I just didn't ask anybody. I was just snapping into the soccer net, to show that I could at least do it. The head coach ended up appreciating the gesture, gave me a shot, and then from week one on and beyond, I was the long snapper for the St. Xavier varsity football team, and really that was where I got my opportunity to then by week 4 or 5, I actually was the backup, so was able to then get some reps in some garbage time my freshman year, and then slowly but surely got the nod to be the starter my sophomore year at St. X, and that was really what propelled me moving forward in my career. So take a chance, and you never know what could happen.
Yeah, from long snapper to quarterback. I love it.
Yeah.
Would you say that sophomore year was kind of the turning point for you, at least when you look back and you think about like your aspirations to play, in college, maybe even in the NFL? Was that kind of a turning point for you at your sophomore year when you became the starter? You're like, okay, well, maybe I could do this whole quarterback thing.
Yeah, when you're a young kid, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, you're coming through middle school, you're always watching the varsity. I mean, that's what you do. So you went to all those games, and college football and NFL football is so far beyond. It's like hard to conceptualize. But I was actually had the opportunity. I was in seventh grade when I met this guy named Will Hewlett. He was a quarterback trainer. He said the best way to look at it is always try to be at least 2 years ahead of yourself. At least in thought. You might not be there yet, but at least be working to be 2 years ahead of where you want to be. So I took that and I said, okay, well, if I'm in 7th grade right now, then I need to be where a 9th grader would be. I need to be able to play on a freshman football team right now. So then as I got to high school, I slowly saw, okay, if I'm a freshman now, I should really be on the varsity. How can I get on the varsity? Is there any shot? And that was where the long snapping came out. And then sophomore year, that same mindset of, okay, if I'm a sophomore right now, I need to be having college interest because that's what a senior would have, because they'd be going on. And so, just trained really hard, had great mentors and people in my corner, teammates pushing me extremely hard. Justin Hilliard was a 5-star who ended up going to Ohio State, had his chance at the NFL. He took me under his wing. There's a bunch of people that I could list off. St. X has bred a lot of good talent. I mean, Luke Kuechly's from St. X. So there's a long list of guys who have had a lot of success far beyond mine. So, but really at the end of the day, that was a key for me. So I went into that sophomore year saying it's not just a trial and error year. This is a year that I need to prove myself to the scouts to be able to be on that big pedestal. And so to your point, yeah, absolutely. It definitely proved something. I ended up committing that summer going to junior year to Penn State. I garnered enough interest where I could see all the schools that I wanted to see. And I figured that all the schools that didn't recruit me, they could see me in college. At the end of the day, I could play them. So if they didn't want me now, then they were not going to want me in the future. Kind of my hard-headedness of being able to have that competitive mindset. But yeah, sophomore year was huge. Thought we had a chance to win state. We were close, but definitely proved to myself more than anything that I could not only play at high school, but I felt like I had the opportunity to play at the next level, which was college. Yeah.
So let me jump around a little bit in your timeline. So obviously now you're the backup quarterback for the Packers, and you talk about this mindset that you learned early on about thinking 2 years ahead. And I read an interesting article that kind of depicted your weekly routine with the Packers, and it talked a lot about you talked about in the article about your mental preparation, about how important of a job you have to make sure that Jordan is prepared for the week for the opponent. You talk about your own mental preparation in terms of taking play calls and kind of mimicking those in-game scenarios so that you stay prepared. I'm curious, when you take that 2-year look ahead, is that kind of still the mindset that you have? Like, do you project that in 2 years you might have an opportunity to start somewhere and that's why you're doing what you're doing now? Or kind of lead me through some of your thinking in what you're doing now?
You're absolutely right. I think what I've realized now of where I'm at is there's a little bit of luck here involved at the end of the day. To be in the NFL is a blessing, and I take that with the utmost respect and of what it deserves. Being a player in the National Football League is quite literally what I dreamed about when I had that flag football Packers jersey on. So humbled to even be in this situation. But as a competitor, absolutely, I want to play. Um, to say that, I could play past Jordan, right? I mean, Jordan is one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League, and I'm proud to be able to call him a friend, somebody who's, a fantastic human being, a fantastic football player, and a fantastic leader. But as I work and I'm thinking, like you said, 2 years down the line, even 3 years down the line when my contract ends, runs up, I want to be a guy who can play somewhere. If it's not for Green Bay, it's for someone else, and at least have that opportunity. So every single day that I go into preparation, I'm preparing to be the guy. I'm preparing to put my best foot forward, whether it be for the coaching staff, for the team, and for myself. Because if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So why not go into every single day with a plan? Being prepared, being intentional about what you're trying to get done, being intentional about the work that you're putting in, and making sure that there's not a day that goes by that you can rest your head on the pillow and say I gave it all that I had. So absolutely, my preparation is very blocked out. I have a very, very strict regimen because I think you kind of need that when you have big goals, and that's kind of always just how I've been wired. So.
We'll get back to the Packers stuff, but I want to jump back to Penn State now. So you commit to Penn State, you come on campus, and what was like your first impression? Were you like, damn, like I made it, like I'm here, I'm ready to play? Or what was like running through your head when you first stepped onto Penn State?
Exact opposite. It was time to prove yourself. You got here, but it really doesn't mean a damn thing if you don't do anything with it. I hold, one of the things I hold really, really near and dear is my last name, as everyone does, really. The Clifford name, making my parents proud, making my grandparents proud, making just the lineage of who a Clifford is, especially as well. To my little brother, I wouldn't call him little anymore. He's bigger than I am, but he just had his first year starting this past year at wide receiver at Penn State, and but at the time, we're 4 years apart. So when I was entering my freshman year of college football, he was entering his freshman year of high school football, and I always wanted to be that role model for him, somebody to look up to. So when times got tough, I just would remember, is this the model? Is this the path that I want him to be on? Am I doing the right thing every single day? Am I not messing around the night before when I know I have a tough workout or I have a big practice? Am I intentional in that moment? So that way, Liam could look at me as somebody to look up to. So yes, when I got on, it wasn't any sense of I'm here now. I made it. It was more, if anything, it was being scared. It was being fearful. I didn't know what to expect. Anybody who says they had it all figured out at that point is lying to you, because you hit that first winter workout or that first practice. You're going to have your kind of your welcome to college football moment, and it definitely it hit me in the face. So being able to bounce back, go through that adversity, that shared suffrage with your teammates, really gives you the opportunity to prove it again to yourself, because that's really what everybody's doing every single day, is just proving that you can accomplish something, and then how can I beat that and beat that and beat that, and that's really what leveling up in my mind is.
Can you talk to me a little bit about, so when I think about starting quarterback for a program like Penn State, I immediately think of that has to be like one of the coolest experiences that you can have just in life in general, right? Like little kids grow up and they're like, dude, if I could be the starting quarterback for a Penn State, for an Ohio State, right, for a Clemson, Alabama, like that is the dream. You were Penn State's all-time passing yards leader, all-time touchdown leader. Had a lot of success with Penn State throughout the years, but also had a lot of adversity. And I'm sure experienced a lot of things that maybe the casual Penn State or sports fan didn't see and didn't, it wasn't televised. Some of your internal struggles weren't for the, open for the world to see. I think at one point you may have received a death threat. So talk to me a little bit about some of the things that we as fans did not see during your tenure with Penn State and how you dealt with that adversity throughout your college career.
Yeah, at the end of the day, everybody's going to deal with adversity. I think that the difference with my struggles in college is, if you're in a frat, or if you're in, if you're in the business school, the issues that you face, we're one and the same. We fail. I fail on a test. The same way you fail on a test. I fail in sports the same way. Something that you're working for, you're going to fail. But the difference was my failures were public, very public, if anything, in front of sometimes hundreds of thousands of people live. So very quickly, I had to kind of come to terms with that, because that's something that you can talk about as much as you want. You could try to prepare for that moment, but it's something you really, at the end of the day, you have to be able to experience before you can really start to conceptualize how to deal with it. And my first year, 2019, we won the Cotton Bowl. Had some great games. Had an opportunity to beat Minnesota, which probably would have had us playing Joe Burrow and LSU. We were fourth in the country at that time. So no reason we shouldn't have won that game. I have one of my good buddies, Tanner Morgan. I still to this day debate with him why we clear as day should have won the game. It was the refs. It's always the refs, isn't it?
Yeah,
But I'm just like a fan at the end of the day too. It's the refs. But no, it was after that in 2020. I got we went 0-4 or 0-5 to start the year, and we were playing Nebraska, and I got benched on national television. I still know the view count. It was 6.5 million people were watching that game, which was it's funny to say now that 6.5 million people saw one of the worst days of my life unfold. But really, it's those days that really makes you into and you find out like what you're all about. Because it was kind of the perfect storm. We had COVID going on, which is terrible for the country in the first place. So the global shutdown. Then Penn State football now making it localized is doing terribly. And to cap it all off, the reason that they're doing bad is myself. I was turning the ball over. I couldn't figure it out. It was actually the first time I threw to our starting two receivers was 2 weeks before the game. I'd never thrown. They were freshmen, so I'd never thrown them in my life. They weren't even at the practice yet. So very, very new situation, tough one to be thrown into. No excuse, but definitely some exterior things going on, and it was tough. And when we started losing games, I'm going back to a house that I'm in by myself. I didn't have any roommates at the time. It was because we were quarantined, so I'm trying to deal with all these internal issues just by myself. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about struggles. I learned about mental health, being able to really lean on your family and the people that really love and care about you, because there wasn't a lot of love being thrown around toward me. And but at the end of the day, it's really those moments that I look back on, and I know now, if I could deal with that, I can deal with anything. And it might be delusional to think that, but at the same time, it's something that keeps me going, and it works for me. So yeah, it was a lot of highs, lots of lows, lots of highs though. At the end of the day, those were the lows, and there were tough times. But I mean, being able to play in the Rose Bowl and the Whiteout and all these different games, like wouldn't trade it for the world. I mean, all those tough times were well worth it at the end of the day.
So how did you deal with the criticism? Let's say you're giving me advice, and this really, I think, applies to whether you're starting quarterback for a big college program, or you're a player in the NFL, or you might be a podcaster, you might be anyone who's in kind of the limelight, right? Like anyone who's putting themselves out there, because it is scary. And I think a lot of people don't want to take that risk, and don't want to face criticism. And
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, the number one thing holding them back is this fear of what people are going to say about them. And so
Yeah.
I'm curious to see, how do you just block out that noise? Do you not look at it, or do you look at it and face it head on and tell yourself certain things? Like how did you deal with it, and how do you continue to deal with it today?
Well, let me ask you a question, Nick. I mean, this is going to be a 30 hour long podcast. How much preparation did you put in before this? Obviously, it had to have been something. I mean, a lot, right? I mean,
Right.
How much time did you put in before this podcast alone?
If I had to give it a number, probably close to 8 to 10 hours of research that I did.
8 to 10 hours. And I'm the same way, to get to that game that I didn't play well in.
Yeah.
It might have been thousands of hours to get there. So let's say that, somebody comes to you and said that this podcast sucks. Does it really matter at the end of the day? Because you're the one who's going through you're the man in the arena. You're the one who is taking all that time and effort. You're putting in all those countless hours of getting yourself prepared. And yeah, you're going to fail. Everyone's going to fail. So really, that's how I conceptualize this. I take it head on. I see it. I know what it is. But at the end of the day, I just lean on knowing what that 4 a.m. wake up looked like, to walk through the snow, to get to winter workouts, to be ready for that moment. And yeah, did you throw an interception? Did you miss a pass? We're all human at the end of the day, but it's the preparation. It's the countless hours with your teammates. It's that shared suffrage that I talked about earlier. That's what really matters. And that's what I lean on when times get tough. And that's really why I don't really care about the criticism. I hate to say it, but I really don't, because I gave my best every single day. I give my best every single day. So you can go in confident as hell knowing that you did that. And if the outcome doesn't come out, there's luck involved with this thing too. So a little bit of things got to the cards got to fall the right way sometimes as well. So.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a critique of you that is true, or one that hits particularly deep?
Man, I don't know. That's the first time that I was asked that question. Which is kudos to you for putting me on the spot like this. I don't really know. I mean, I try to address every critique in some sort of way, whether it be on the field, like quite literally. I mean, I can speak to what I'm trying to correct this year. One of the things that the head coach, Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst, they said, whenever I'm throwing down the middle, if I do have a tendency, if I do miss, it's going to be high. So one of the things that I'm trying to work on is being able to, make sure that on those specific throws, mid-range throws, that I'm working that trajectory, being able to put together a better product next year when it comes to making those throws. And I'm not afraid to say it, because, that's just opportunity to grow and get better. If you thought I was good before, just wait until I figure that out, and then boom, we got something even better. But no, there's nothing that really has ever, shocked me. If you're pointing it out, I probably have already gone over it in my head 50 times. So it's nothing new. I already know my flaws, so there's never been like something where someone said something and I'm like, shoot, like I've never heard that. I know most of my issues, and I'm all right with that. Trying to get better.
Love it. So let's move on to Green Bay. Obviously, like we mentioned at the beginning, drafted 5th round by the Packers. Talk to me a little bit about the draft process. So it was funny. This is a wild story, but I had Marcellus Wiley on the show a couple episodes ago. Podcast hasn't released yet, but there's a part in that episode where Marcellus talks about this like draft beauty pageant that they had, where like all of the top prospects, I don't know if it was like every prospect, but most of the prospects would walk out in like a Speedo. And like the scouts would sit there and admire them and like basically grade them on their body. And Marcellus talks about just making sure he was flexing all the right muscles to get the best grade possible. And that's wild, because like to me, like the combine is just what I see on TV with players running the 40 and doing all that. So I guess for you, was there a beauty pageant, and what are some things that maybe most people don't realize about the NFL draft?
The Marcellus story is true. I can vouch for that. It happened a couple times, but they really do. The most vivid memory, because it was the first one that I encountered. I was down at the Hula Bowl directly after the Rose Bowl. I went down to play in that, and we were all lined up, and we all had our like number, and we were asked just to strip down to quite literally just and what we did was you'd walk up, give them your name whatever tag, and it had your your details and everything, and then you step on the scale, get weighed, and then you go over to the side and get your height, and then they would announce it. And there's there are 500 plus people in this room, and they'd say Sean Clifford, 6'1", 215 pounds, and then you'd walk up onto a stage, and they told you to walk up, turn to the crowd, stand there, don't say anything, just stand there, damn near naked, and then walk off after 3 seconds. And it's so funny because you got some of these guys who don't need to do anything. I mean, they're just yoked. And then you got me, and I'm over here trying to, just kind of do my own pump and kind of just flex as much as possible. And it was funny because the guy in front of me, big defensive tackle, ginormous dude, he's like, "Hey bro, you good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" And he's like, "Well, your feet are sweating." And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm just trying." Because I was flexing so hard, I started actually sweating off of how hard I was trying to just look the part. But yeah, there are definitely beauty pageants, and it is very, very awkward. But I guess it's just part of the process. So got to embrace it.
whatever helps these scouts, I guess, make better picks. I don't know. I guess to each their own.
This is my
So after the combine, and as draft day is nearing, what was your initial impression? I think I read somewhere that maybe you were thinking you're going to be a 6th, 7th rounder somewhere late in the draft. What was that kind of the impression that you had going in, that you'd be a late round selection? And what were you hoping for to happen in the draft?
Man, I had a weird draft prep just because I didn't go to the combine. And once I didn't get a combine invite, things just looked kind of crazy for me. I didn't really know what that meant. I'm looking up the stats, and it was quite literally, I think, every year there's always guys who get picked who didn't go to the combine, but they're always in the back half. They're always in, the 7th round, 6th round. A lot of undrafted free agents come out of that group. So, just from the numbers, because as you probably could tell, I'm a very, numbers oriented, data driven type person where I like to, back it up with some facts and some stats. So I'm like, oh shoot, we're treading uphill now. but I continuously went to these different interviews, and I went to the local pro days, and I got my name out there, and I had my own pro day, and it was definitely an uprising slope. I would say I probably started as an undrafted guy, if I'm being quite honest. I wasn't getting a ton of looks. It took me the Hula Bowl and then the NFLPA Bowl that I also got invited to kind of get some scout interest, at least the regional guys. But I was never hearing from GMs or head coaches. I'm talking to one of my best buddies, Will Levis, who's the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. And, we'd be on the phone. He's like, "Oh, yeah, I just got off the phone with GM this and head coach this." And I'm like, "Yeah, I talked to the regional scout from the Falcons yesterday." It was so much different. So I didn't really know what to expect. But what happened was I was going to all the local pro days, and I started to get some more traction. My agent started to get more calls. And then it was about 2 or 3 weeks before I went to the top 30 visit at Green Bay. And it went super well, oddly well. And even my agent was like, "Oh, don't read into it too much." I'm like, no, I'm telling you, it just felt different. There was just some different feel to it, where I know you have all this experience, and I appreciate that, but I just have an inkling. It's just weird. And after that day, my stock definitely rose. So going into the draft, I didn't feel like I was going to be undrafted. I had a really good feeling that I would be a draft guy, just because the 2 or 3 days before, I was actually getting head coaches calling me and GMs, and I was garnering a lot of interest. I had at least 10 to 15 teams that were calling me pretty regularly. So my agent and I both felt that we were in a position where, okay, we're going to hear our name called. It's just, when is it going to be Mr. Irrelevant, be Brock Purdy, or is it going to be early? We have no idea. But I figured it'd be a day 3 scenario. But ended up going into day 3. We got over. I actually was like, all right, I'm not going to go in the 4th round. I just I don't know why, but I just slated myself off in the 4th round. So we were literally rolling in the back half of the 4th round to set up for our party that we were having, and we didn't even have a projector, a screen up And that's where a clip actually went viral of when I got drafted. And it wasn't because I was crying or because I was so excited, because my brother actually panned over to the pick on the screen, but the screen was literally just a wall. It was like the projector was just on a yellow wall, and it looked so weird, like janky and just so bad. But we just weren't ready yet. Like we were still setting up the party, and like the guy who actually runs the company that acquired us wasn't even there. Like he was coming back picking up pizzas, and he's like, "What happened?" And we were like, "Oh, you got drafted." So it was definitely a little bit, a little earlier maybe, but I definitely had a great feeling going into the draft. Had a great experience. Getting that call was, I mean, as you could probably tell, it was a long journey getting there. So getting that call, I lost it just because I just thought of every single time that I was counted out, and it all came true at the end. Hard work, dedication, all those opportunities that I had. Just head down, and that call was worth every single tough time that I went through in football, because it wasn't just about me. It was about the people around me. It was about my family. It was about seeing my mom and dad crying and seeing the tears in their eyes of, they were a part of it. They got me to this moment, and seeing my brother so proud, and my fiance, and just everybody. It was just a full circle moment for me. So yeah, the NFL draft was great.
I was going to ask about your family next, because it seems like you are definitely a family man, and it seems like you're very you're closely tied with your family. You talk about your brother often. You talk about your parents often in other interviews and other places on the internet. So, you just spoke to it a little bit, but how much do you think it meant to your family just to see you get drafted, go to the Packers, who many consider, it's a historic franchise. It's one of the most well-run organizations in the NFL. Just, it's near the top every single year. So what was that like for your family, and just seeing them succeed, seeing you succeed and enter the NFL?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Like I kind of alluded to, my dad was the one that was always taking me to practice, and always, going above and beyond, taking time out of his life to make sure that, I was getting better, because I wanted to get better. I wanted to prove to myself that I could play at the highest level. And he saw that early in me, and he saw that in my brother as well. So it was really, really, just cool is definitely not the word for it, but really cool to be able to see that. And then my mom, a little bit different, just because she wasn't, she's never been crazy just into the game of football, because she just never played it, but she knows how much it matters to me, and how big of an opportunity it was in my life. And yes, I mean, when all that happens, and you start to look at, right away, people are pulling up contracts and saying, "Oh, this is what you're going to do." It wasn't about that. It's never been about the money for that. It's been about just getting to the place that you dreamed of. And for my brother, he's in college, playing at Penn State, aspiring to be in the NFL as well. Definitely has the talent to do it. You just gotta keep grinding. But for him, I think it was just a huge moment for the both of us, because it was all those times in the backyard when we were just playing with the neighborhood kids, and to know that now, I get to wear the G, the most, like you said, the most, let's get that straight, the most historic NFL franchise, if not one of the most historic franchises in the world when it comes to sports. I mean, I know that the Niners are too, but Green Bay is the one. Matt LaFleur always talks about it when we left the facility. He always says, carry the G with you wherever you go. And it's funny, because I feel like at other organizations, I can't speak for other organizations, and I don't know how they're ran, but the G way is the same way that I've always been. I've always been a G, in a way, like trying to be my best self in every single walk of life, whether it be interacting with, somebody on the street, whether it be, you're at a bar, whether it be, at a restaurant or just out in public in general, you're always trying to represent yourself at the highest standard and being the best person you possibly can be. So to find myself at a franchise that aligns with all my values and all the people are saying the same things in the facility, it's a blessing. It really is to be in this situation. So that's why I attack every day, because there's no reason not to.
So you talk about the G way and wearing the G everywhere you go. Take us into the Packers locker room. Like, what is, again, we as fans, we hear about Matt LaFleur and we hear about how much of an offensive mastermind he is. And I always think back, this is off topic, but I always think back to that Redskins coaching tree where it was like LaFleur, McVay, Shanahan.
It's like Daniels, everybody was on that group. Yep.
Yeah, it's like half of the NFL, coaches were, were assistants on the Redskins at some point. But so take us like into the Packers locker room. Like what, you talk about how your culture, the Packers culture, is different from other teams and it's so well run. Like what specifically, I think you alluded to a little bit, but like what specifically makes it so different and what makes it such a great culture to be around?
Yeah, I think the best way to paint it is with an example. Somebody who is a G, carries it every single day, and that's Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is somebody who, I saw on television. I knew what he was all about. He looked like a great dude and somebody who I, would want to be friends with and be somebody who I could aspire to be. But then you get there and we're in training camp. We're in like day 4 or 5 and it's starting to get hot. And I'm over there as the rookie quarterback. You don't get as many reps because you're at the time I'm not in the backup, so I'm taking half of the backup reps. So it's like 85% go to the starters, and then there's 15%, and then there's my small percentage of reps that you're getting. So you kind of gotta get caught up, and so I would stay after, and I would go through the whole script and kind of just run through the speaking it, because the language, the terminology is longer, so you gotta get up to terms with that, and then actually doing the play and going through the motions and then just throwing to whether it be on air or just going through your progression. And one day, it was a few days into it, Aaron Jones had saw that I was doing this after every day. And he puts his helmet back on. He runs out with his kid too, who was following him. And he's like, hey, like, let me get in. Like, let me take some reps with you if you want me to run a route or just like go through the mesh or some footwork. And I'm like, Aaron, you don't got to do that, bro. Like, that's like, you don't need that. And he said, no, I do, because I need to get better too. And I want to help you. And that hit me. I mean, this is one of my first experiences as a Packer. And now I got Aaron Jones, who's going to be a Hall of Famer one day, telling me that he needs the work. He needs to get better. I mean, that's something I'll take forever. That's something that, I could be a 15-year vet. And I hope, I'm that same guy. I want to be the guy who's out there helping the younger players whenever it might be. But that's what, when you talk about being a G, Aaron Jones, that's one example. I mean, I have, 52 other examples in the locker room that are G's. And everybody really is when it comes to just putting the team first, putting the culture first, just knowing that the people that have came before you outstand your name, knowing that and being able to then, just do your best to be a G.
Speaking of other Packers Hall of Famers, there's a guy by the name of Aaron Rodgers who left you a little gift and a note when you joined the Packers, and I believe you had his old locker this past season. Mm-hmm. So what did Rodgers tell you, and what did it mean to you to have his old locker?
Yeah, it was a great moment. I was actually out in LA for the Panini NFLPA event that they put on, where they brought out, it was their top 40, where they had the top 40 most marketable rookies. I don't know if I fall into that or not. Great opportunity. I was, not going to say no, but don't know if I'm the top 40. Well, whatever. But, went out there, and there was a segment with Fanatics, and we came in and sat down, and we just kind of asked questions. And then Aaron ended up popping up on the screen, gave me some advice that I think it's even online, the actual video. But really, the thing that he said was, the same thing that I was talking about. The people in the locker room, the equipment staff, that's why he always liked his locker, because so my locker now is directly next to the equipment room. So being able to talk to the people that are doing the day to day, being able to talk to the people that are picking up, your trash, the things that you leave behind, the people that really, really matter in the organization. He spoke on how important that is, and how important it is to be a role model every single day. And to have his locker, he gave me like a signed jersey, and he said, "Enjoy that great city and my locker, Aaron Rodgers." And it was a full circle moment for me, because I've watched Aaron for years, and now for him to be able to talk to me and speak to me and make such an impact, I could only imagine of making an impact like that on a guy. But no, it really was a full circle moment, something that I'll never forget. And yeah, really cool.
Yeah, that really is. So you talk a lot about being a role model for other people. And we've spoken about it extensively on this podcast. It's obviously something that you hold near and dear to your heart, setting an example, not only for your brother, but maybe other kids out there who want to be, professional quarterbacks at some point. Are there any role models that you look up to, or any quarterbacks that, you take tidbits from to try and improve your own game, or just life in general? Like anybody that you look up to say, hey, I really like what this, person has said about X or Y.
Yeah. There's a lot. It starts with my dad personally, just because he was always the guy who was the rock of the family, never wavered in the ship, always kept it, steady. So that's number one. I would say number two, and close second now, is my brother. I might have been a role model to him, and I might still be, but he's a role model to me. The way that he's gone through his own adversity. I mean, he knows it. Like coming in after I was there, and I kind of set my legacy. He has to make his own name, and he's doing that every single day. He's a leader on the team. He's somebody who everyone looks up to, and it's inspiring for me as somebody who has gone through Penn State, set a legacy of some extent, and now seeing him do the same thing in his own name for the Clifford last name is so cool. So for him, I would say those two. And then when it comes to people that I looked up to, I had Peyton Manning on my wall as a fathead, and I always thought that Peyton was always a great role model and example in the community, as someone who could have fun but also make plays. And turns out, literally the day after the draft, first text that I wake up to in the morning is Peyton Manning texting me congratulations, which was like another full circle moment. So I think a lot of the role models that I've really came into contact with, it's been cool. It's been awe-inspiring, honestly, because you start to realize that these guys are just normal human beings like you and I, and all just with a big dream. And that's what, when I talk to kids and try to give back as much as possible, my story is the people at the very, very top of the pyramid per se, or the people that you look up to, they were just like you. And it really is hard to conceptualize that, because you just got to kind of live through it. But it is so true. Like, Peyton Manning was once just a 6-year-old kid on a flag football team trying to make a play. Like, that's what he was. And day by day, he just grew into Peyton Manning, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And it's the same way that I'm trying to do myself, every single day, just being the best I can be. And I hope for the kid who's, aspiring to be Sean Clifford, if there are a kid, even as a kid out there trying to do that, I hope he's saying the same thing. He's saying that I'm just going to put my head down and work, because really at the end of the day, your work's going to speak for itself. So,
love it, man. A couple more questions here, because I know you have to run. I have to ask you about Jordan Love, and my question is specifically, so around October of last year, you guys got off to a bit of a shaky start. Jordan got off to a bit of a shaky start. People were questioning if he's the franchise guy. And back in October, there's actually fans calling for him to be benched in favor of you. And that obviously did not happen. And Jordan went on to have an incredible season. And like you mentioned at the top of this podcast, now widely regarded as, one of the top quarterbacks, definitely one of the top young quarterbacks in the league. You could argue one of the top quarterbacks in the league, period, after his playoff performances. So post October, what did you see? Was there like a light bulb moment for Jordan, or was there something that you guys worked on? Like what was so different towards the second half of the season?
We had a young team. We have a young team. We were the youngest team in the NFL. I think our average age was 25 and a half. I'm 25 as a rookie, so I'm damn near bringing up the age. So, we had a very, very young team, and you see the things in practice happen. You see Jordan be consistent. You saw him make big plays in practice, and the thing about it was no one really questioned it. I know the outside, there was a lot of questions. And we heard him like loud and clear. I mean, it's almost impossible nowadays with social media and media in general. Like you quite literally need to live under a rock if you're not going to see anything. But we saw him. You got the TVs going in the facility. Like people are seeing what people are saying. But for us, it really, and I'm being completely honest, it was not a question because we knew what we had, and we knew that just eventually it would click. And mid-season, it just, I would say, right around when we played like the Chiefs in that area that time, even when we went to Pittsburgh and played and lost to the Steelers, but you started to really see big plays happen. And I think Matt would even say that, he was calling plays like he called them for Aaron for a while. And Aaron is a different quarterback than Jordan. And so it took a few rounds. It took, honestly 9-10 games for Jordan and Matt to get that blend. And then once they did, that's the team that you saw in the playoffs. That's the team that we are at the end of the day is we're young, but we have the talent, and we're ready to keep displaying that. And I think, I know the outside media said a lot, but in the ship, in the arena, there wasn't really one question. Not one time did I question any of it.
Well, and kudos to you guys and the entire Packers team. I mean, you guys turned it around and made it far enough to lose to the Niners again. So, I mean, all in all, pretty successful season, on par with what's been happening recently. Sean, I have a fun game for us. So I have 5 scores here, and I want you to tell me how they're all related.
Okay.
So these are 5 football scores. So we got 45-31, 23-20. 37-20, 13-10, 24-21.
I'm assuming it's your 49ers or something. I'm not even going to take a guess. This is just probably going to piss me off.
Those are the scores. Those are the scores of the last 5 Niners Packers playoff games.
Yeah, I don't want to hear
49ers.
That's nothing I want to hear. Yeah, good. We'll see you next year.
Yeah, well, I'm scared of you guys next year. I mean, all jokes aside, Jordan Love is legit. We saw it. Like you said, you guys are one of the youngest teams in the NFL. The sky's the limit. So, all honesty, all jokes aside, I can't say that I'm rooting for you guys because I don't think I'll ever root for the Packers, but I'm rooting for the individual players and to see you guys succeed. So, best of luck next year. Sean, before we end tonight, I just want to touch on your company real quick, Limitless NIL, kind of what your goal with it is. And then even beyond just Limitless NIL, we joked around, before we started recording, you're doing this whole entrepreneurship thing kind of at the beginning of your football career, where most, I'd say NFL players typically do it kind of at the end when they're trying to prepare for a life outside of the game. And so I'm curious where this entrepreneurship stuff came from. Were you always interested in this? And how did you come to creating your own company?
Yeah, I was always an entrepreneur at heart. When I was in high school, really, I was training quarterbacks as like a quarterback school, just making an extra buck, but really just doing what I loved and coaching, grade school kids, middle school kids on just their fundamentals. That was really the first business I would say I was running. But then college comes around, and before NIL, you couldn't do any of that. Like there was no business, there's no side hustle. If you were doing something, it had to been under the counter. which, you're really not messing around with that if you're a starter, like at the end of the day. So, for me, NIL was really just an opportunity to be my truest self, be, my fullest form of who I can be. And really, I saw a lot of success with NIL my first year, my 5th year. And when I decided to come back for my last one, I just wanted to do something different. I wanted to help other student athletes really monetize and build their brand, be able to do something outside of sport, because, it is one thing to talk about, how I built it during football, but really, I don't see it as much of a burden. I don't really see it as much as a deterrent, because what I did was I built a hell of a team around me with Limitless NIL. Every single person in that group is fantastic. I could go down the list of all of our partners, our employees that work alongside of us, and I built a great team, which is the same thing as having a great team with football. And really, from a system perspective, I put the system that we trusted and that we work on into place, so that way I could take a step back when I have to and focus on what's the main goal of playing for the Green Bay Packers, because my team knows that is not only bringing us business and bringing us opportunity, but it's really, at the end of the day, who I am. So I don't really see it as something out of the box. I just wanted to be prepared for when I was done with ball. I wanted to be ready for whenever that time comes, whether that be next year and, something happens and, it's not meant to be, or if it's 15 years down the line and I have 5 Super Bowls under my belt and we're talking, it's a whole different conversation. Who knows? The world, it could go a million different ways, but how I see it is, when I'm done with football, for me personally, I know that from a mental health, from a future perspective, I already know what I want to do. I found another love right alongside football, and that's in the entrepreneurship space. That's in the business space. That's in the venture capital world. That's in all those conversations that I've had with so many different people. And that was because I took a step forward. I took a step out of the box to try to find something that I could really, call my own. And, when I made the company, that's really, at the end of the day, what it was. It was something that when I went out on the field for my last year at Penn State, I always knew that no matter what would happen, it wasn't the end all be all. Football was not going to be what defined me. It's the other things. It's all the other opportunities that are out there. And that's really what I want for other players. I want them to be able to play free, knowing that, yes, you have goals and aspirations and all those different things, and those are still on the table. You should go after them as hard as humanly possible. But there's nothing wrong with having something outside of sport, because it does just give you that peace of mind that if something goes wrong here in this sport, that you don't know what could happen. There's injuries, there's problems, there's cuts, there's management changes, there's coaching changes, there's transfer portals, there's a million different things that could possibly happen that you can't control. But the one thing you can control is finding something outside of sport that you love. And that will give you peace of mind that whenever it is done, whenever I have to hang up the helmet, I do have the next step of my life. So that's, just me. I might be different. I might be crazy for that, but I really don't. I mean, I talk to guys all the time, and that's really, I think there's going to be a new trend. I think there's going to be a new way of going about this, where you can be your own business. You can be a businessman and also, play at a high level. So
what you've obviously played football nearly your entire life. What lessons from football do you look to implement in your business ventures? And when you talk, when you think about entrepreneurship and building businesses, investing in businesses, what are maybe some overlaps between football and business that you look to implement?
Yeah, when I look at founders and when I look at, just myself, it really goes back to the core values that I found at Penn State. The 4 core values, which is positive attitude, great work ethic, compete in everything you do, and must be willing to sacrifice. And on the football field, that's easy, bring a positive attitude, have a great work ethic, compete, sacrifice time and effort and all this. That's simple to be able to lay out there. But in the business world, it just looks a little different. Like, having a positive attitude it goes in every walk of life. Like when you're in a group meeting, or when you're speaking to somebody, or when you're trying to make a business deal, like just having a positive outlook on that deal, or having a positive outlook on that opportunity, will just change your whole trajectory. Positive attitude, great work ethic, putting as much time and effort as you see fit. That goes with everything. Work ethic, competing, sacrifice, all these different things, all the intangibles of what makes sports great. People don't talk enough about how it just is the same. If you just take the constructs of what you learn in sport and just apply it directly to what you're doing now, there with no fall off, if you attack with the same mindset, good things will come. And I know it might not be as sexy, it might not be as flashy as playing in front of 100. Trust me. Like, I don't know if I'll ever find the same love and high of playing in front of 110,000 people. Like, that was such a great opportunity. But I've closed the book on that, and I'm going to look for new ways to find that same way that I feel like I'm part of a community, that I'm part of something bigger than myself. And I encourage everybody to do the same, because it's those core pillars, it's that kind of mantra that will make your life meaningful and make it worth doing something cool.
Dude, speaking of playing in front of 100,000 fans, I still, to this day, I get goosebumps from watching the video, the Penn State whiteout versus Michigan, when they were playing Mo Bamba, when Michigan couldn't get their first snap off because it was so loud in that building. I'm not a Penn State fan.
My first whiteout. Yeah.
I mean, what a welcome to the Penn State whiteout, right? I mean, I'm not a Penn State fan, but that, like, I'll sometimes go back to that video to feel something, I'll go back and watch it. I'm like, dude, I can't imagine being there. Sean, this has been absolutely fantastic. I've really enjoyed this interview. One more quick question, and then we'll end it in a way that we end every one of these episodes, kind of a tradition that we have on the Victory Degree podcast. Just like in general, when you first, got to the NFL, when you're, sitting on the sidelines, or if you're like meeting players after games or whatever, is there one player that kind of stuck out to you in your first season that you were maybe surprised by, you really didn't expect much of, but when you either met them or saw them play, you're like, wow, this guy's different?
Man. No, there's a ton of players that are like that surprise me, or I look up to, or think the world of. I would say the one guy that I was the most proud of, most proud to call one of my best friends and one of my best buddies, Ji'Ayir Brown out of San Francisco 49ers. His nickname's Tig, and that's actually how I'll refer to him. But Tig and I went way back, and I think this is actually a great way to kind of end the podcast. And this is something that I didn't talk about, but is very, very important. And during the COVID year, 2020, Coach Franklin came out and he talked about how the locker room is the most pure form of what the world should look at when it comes to replicating it. It doesn't matter race, it doesn't matter religion, doesn't matter economic background, your finances. None of that has any bearing in the locker room. The only thing that matters is that you're going toward one goal, and that is to win for the community that you're putting on your chest. And that was Penn State for us. And it hit me because it was such a tough time in 2020. But Tig and I got really close, and I learned quickly, how tough. I come from St. X, Cincinnati, Ohio. I didn't have many issues when I was growing up. I just didn't run into them. And if they were nothing compared to some other person. So why was I, getting too down on it? But Tig comes from Trenton, New Jersey, somewhere where I've talked to him at long extents of his background and the tough times that he was brought up. And to see just how he's a beacon of light, a beacon of hope for his community, for his family, for the people that he's a part of, and that see themselves in him. He is just such a fantastic human being. And I'll say this, when I saw him after the game, Yes, I was pissed. I definitely was. But I was so happy for him because I knew, going, he'd have an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. I had a feeling that you guys would go, get past because we had the same feeling. Because if we beat you guys, we were going to the Super Bowl. That was our thought. So I knew that he was going to have that opportunity, and I just thought about that guy who I'd met at Penn State and all those different times that he encountered, all the trials and tribulations that he had to go through in his career and in his life. And man, I would say, Ji'Ayir, because he just deserves it. He's a dude who is one of the best people I've ever met. Super sincere, cares about everybody else other than himself, and at the end of the day, is a perfect example of the more you can give, the more you will get, because just great human. So yes, big.
That's beautiful. And I love that you gave me that perspective, because now I will be rooting 10 times harder than I initially was for my boy Ji'Ayir Brown.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a great rookie season, man. Had a pick in the Super Bowl. I think highly of him. I think he's going to be a beast for us back there. So I'm hoping he can keep going. So Sean, all right, we're going to end this, but not before we do our little tradition here on the Victory Degree podcast. So at the end of every episode, I ask my guest to leave a piece of advice for our next guest. But the catch is that you do not know who the next guest will be. And so our last guest on the show was Ben Brewster. So Ben, former MLB pitcher for the White Sox, kind of like you, entrepreneur. So he started Tread Athletics, basically a baseball performance facility. So he helps pitchers increase their velocity. He's been really successful, has a lot of great pitchers come through there. And his advice for you, kind of the theme of our episode, was everyone has something to teach you, and if you dig deep enough, you can learn something from them. So first of all, what does that advice mean to you? And then what's the piece of advice that you'd like to leave for our next guest?
Can you say it one more time? I don't want to mess his quote up.
So he said, everyone has something to teach you, and if you dig deep enough, you can learn something from them.
No, that's fair. I mean, it's true. Every single person that I've ran into, whether they're the biggest name in sports or just a person on the street, every single person has a story, and it's just what you're willing to ask. It's about being curious, that definitely resonates with me. Are you sure you didn't set him up for me? Because really, at the end of the day, that is a perfect way of going about your day, because you just don't know what people have gone through. It could be, the toughest of times. It could be something small, but it could resonate. So I'm gonna take that one for sure. I'm gonna take that one, and I'm gonna try to find somebody in the next 24 hours to pick their brain just because of that. So
love it, and it's actually surprising because there's been so many times on this podcast where I'll say the piece of advice, and the guest will have the same exact reaction that you just did, which is, are you sure you didn't tell them exactly who I was and why? So it's funny how that works out. Sean, your piece of advice for our next guest.
Everything you imagine is real. That would be my piece of advice, because I think a lot of people, they have ideas, they have concepts, whether it be in business, whether it be just goals or aspirations, but they've either never seen it done before, or it's so far away from them that they can't really, they don't think they could do it. But I can truly tell you that if you can imagine it, if you can take it out of your mind and put it onto a piece of paper, there's no reason it can't happen. So that would be my advice. Everything you imagine is real.
Love it. What a perfect way to end this episode. Sean, this has been amazing. Wishing you and your teammates, not the Packers, but wishing you and your teammates a lot of luck and success this upcoming season. And thanks again for your time. And tell your fiance I'm sorry for running us a little bit over.
I will. I'll take it up with her. But I appreciate it, Nick. This is fantastic. Thank you.